Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. Michael Zuber, one rental at a time, back with the one and only Mr. Greg Dickerson. How you doing, sir?
Doing great, Michael. Good to see you.
Nice to see you. So, obviously we're heading into the end of the year. Something I'm already doing is kind of taking stock of what I did this year, what I'm hoping to do next year. But one of the things I'm starting to look at is the stock market. I'm actually going to personally be deploying at least 50 grand next year into dividend stocks. I think the S&P, as we're recording this, is about 3950. We'll call it 4,000 for a round number. Um, I'm curious. We talked about inflation. We talked about recession. We've talked about buying businesses in our first two episodes. I'm curious, when you look at the stock market heading into next year, um, do you see 3,500 before we see 4,500? Where do you kind of come out on the stock market? It's not something you and I usually talk about.
Yeah, it's hard to say right now until we get the inflation and the Fed's response to it. But the markets always look for that Santa Claus rally because Wall Street wants their bonuses, and
True.
portfolios have to rebalance, allocators have to allocate. Life insurance companies, pension funds, they have to make payments and benefits, pay out benefits, pay pension payments. You have the sovereign wealth funds, you have endowments, like institutions, colleges, things like that. They have to generate returns. So, there's money that has to go to work. So
Right.
they're looking at, where's the best place, where's the right time. To your point about dividend earning stocks, that's why the Dow, had such a big rally recently, because a lot of the money went in there, the safety trade. So what the market's looking for right now, let's see what happens tomorrow. If inflation comes in as expected or lower, then the markets can, potentially rally from here into the end of the year, put in a nice little Santa Claus rally. We saw that last year, the last couple of weeks of the year. Markets were up 6-7%. Crypto was up, Bitcoin was up to 15%. Some crypto was up 20-30%. And then it all fell off the cliff in January. And, because of where we are and where we were in the cycle at that time. So, that looks like a potential scenario right now based on if we get, at or lower inflation print, we could kind of see that. And then what the market needs to do, because the market's already priced in inflation, it's already priced in interest rate risk. What it can't do is earnings. So markets now going into next year are going to be looking at earnings, and they're going to have to reprice based on earnings. And if we get the recession that pretty much everybody's forecasting, and it's funny, you have these narratives in the markets where people say, "Oh, if everybody thinks one way, it's not going to happen."
Yeah.
So this is the most anticipated, predicted, forecasted recession ever. So it's not going to happen. I mean, that's just nonsense.
Right.
You can just see it coming
Yeah.
because of what's going on with inflation, what that's done to the consumer and interest rates and all these different things. It's going to have an impact on the economy. The question is how deep, how long, how shallow, how short, how mix that up any way you want.
Mhm.
Deeper, shorter, shallow, longer. I mean, whatever, you want to call that. So that's what the market can't price right now because earnings have been decent, but a lot of it's been because prices have been so high.
Right.
And, we haven't seen, a real recession yet, which is deep layoffs, companies going bankrupt and going out of business. Those are the types of things that's what a recession really is. So the market can't anticipate that right now until we start getting into next year, see what that, earnings looks like. Forget the guidance. Company's going to tell you what they're going to tell you. You got to see what's really going on, when the rubber meets the road. So that's kind
Yeah.
of what I'm looking for now. And then if we get the reverse, if inflation comes out hotter than what we think, and the
Ugh.
Fed, I don't think the Fed will surprise. They've telegraphed 50 basis points potentially. That's what
Mhm.
everybody's expecting. But if they come out 75 and that inflation print's higher, we're going to go down and break the October low, and that's where you might see an S&P, test that 3,200 range
Right.
and potentially maybe put in a base from there. So those are your two scenarios that are on the table, and nobody knows which one's going to happen.
Yeah, when I look at a bear market, there in my experience, there's kind of three legs to the bear. I think leg one's done. That's multiple compression, right? Depending on what you look at, multiples were as high as 26, 27. They're now 18-ish. The one that I don't think's happened yet is what you were just talking about is earnings compression. I believe analysts, generally speaking, have earnings pegged about $228 for the S&P 500 next year. If this recession has teeth, which I think it will, at least in the first half, um, we could see earnings go sub 200. And then, oh, by the way, just so people ask, leg three of a bear market is capitulation. It's where people basically say, I never want to own stocks again. And we haven't seen that. So I think we're staring. I think Q1 is earnings compression. I think people finally give up. We're through the holidays. They realize that the Fed's not kidding. There's no cut coming. And analysts finally do what they're supposed to do. Because again, they don't want to do it in Q4 because it's their bonus, as you tell us. So it's I think earnings compression is going to be coming pretty shortly. What do you think?
Yeah, and some people are predicting, 185, earnings
Yeah.
should roughly come in, around 185 on the S&P, which brings it down to about, 3250. That's about a 20% drop from here.
Yeah.
So, I
Ouch.
mean, there's mixed opinions on that across the board. There's some economists that are in that camp. Other economists are saying we're done and we're going to be off to the races. And then there's people that are saying, we might not see new highs for 10 years. Now, to your point about people giving up on stocks, I mean, that's not going to happen. I mean,
Yeah. Okay.
it is what it is. People aren't going to give up. Some will, and
Yeah.
we haven't seen that yet. So that's the thing.
Mm-mm.
So what we have not seen and we have not had is a real capitulation where people just give up. They're out. They're going to cash. They're going to the sidelines because this is a very different environment than you saw a panic and capitulation in 2020 where people were just fleeing the market
Yes.
because nobody knew what was going to happen. You saw that in 2008 9 because banks were collapsing. People didn't know what was going to happen. Now, with all of the money that's been pumped into the economy, the Fed has not sucked that liquidity out that has been put in there. The reverse repo, the banks, have all those, all that money on deposit. They're not lending. I mean, there's a lot of money out there that can still be put to work. And then you have the retail investor that came in over the last number of years with stimulus, this, that, and the other. It's just a different paradigm now where people have really bought into the buy the dip mentality. The Fed's going to prop the markets up. They're not going to let it crash. That mentality's out there to where people will not let go and will not walk away from the market. And there's no catalyst yet, to wash the market out and make it give up. You're going to need some sort of a crack somewhere, and it may not be in the United States. It
Oh
could be
yeah.
China.
You're right.
I mean, China's in a recession. Their market's very fragile. They're going to prop it up as long as they can. But if you get some big collapses over there that start triggering a global event like what happened in 2009, that can trigger some things that create a real capitulation in the markets for a while. But they'll find a bottom like they
Mhm.
always have, and people will jump back in, and those bottoms have been pretty consistent over the last couple of times. They've been 50% plus or minus off the peaks. The question
Yeah.
is, this last level was very distorted. So where's a real contraction from there in that event? Do you go back off the pre-pandemic highs and go down from there? A lot of people are, pointing to some indicators that would say, you got to break those levels to really get back to where you can find a real reset in the markets. So
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, I'm going to take a total right turn, total pivot. You don't know this is coming, but I just have to ask. Um, about I think it was about 8 weeks ago. There was a billionaire, the CEO of Starwood. Um, I don't know if it's Starwood Capital or whatnot, but basically he was coming on CNBC, basically begging the Fed for a cut. Jeremy Steinhardt,
Yeah.
Steinhardt, something like that. Anyways, he actually generated a PowerPoint, which is when he had that presentation, he had PowerPoints for the Fed. I'm like, this guy's in trouble. So lo and behold, his mortgage company has gone bankrupt. That happened in the last 30 days, and then he stopped his REIT. He stopped paying dividends. So basically, Barry was in trouble, and he was showing stress on CNBC. So what I want to ask you is, I want to ask you about Elon Musk. Elon Musk, CEO of 1,000 companies, but Tesla is where his wealth is. He's come out recently and said that the Fed, if the Fed goes 50 basis point Wednesday, which I think you and I both agree is telegraphed, it's
Minimum.
going to magnify the recession. He's now said this for the last month, kind of begging the Fed to stop, cut, pivot. I'm wondering, is it unreasonable to think that he's getting daily updates of Tesla orders and backlog, and thus maybe Tesla, or maybe he's not going to have his 40% revenue growth, and thus Tesla is in trouble? Or do you think there's something else going on? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's all that he's leveraged like everybody else. But yeah, Tesla's days are over. I mean, Tesla's losing market share by the day. There's companies entering the market in the EV market, like all of the standard manufacturers, they're all
Yep.
coming out with EVs. So I mean, he's lost market share big time. You've got companies from Vietnam coming in that really great looking SUV vehicles. What's it called? VinFast. I don't know if you've seen that,
I haven't
but
yet. No.
yeah, check out VinFast. Killer, EV, competitor to like the Chevy Tahoe. It's a larger 9-seater.
Okay.
And then you've got Rivian, you've got, all these other companies that are out there
Hmm.
competing at scale with Tesla that just wasn't there. And,
Yeah.
that was a great stock during the boom. I mean, it 20x, from the bottom of 2020 up to the peak.
When I look at Tesla, it's one of those stocks I would never touch because to me it feels like a cult stock, right? Just like there's crypto bros and Bitcoin maximalists. There are some people that think Tesla can't do any wrong and we don't get it and all of that stuff. And then I look at kind of the, 40% expectations into a recession, into China deterioration. Oh, by the way, now, and again, Musk is not above talking his book, right? What did he do last earnings call? He went into the earnings call and he started talking about Tesla's going to be more valuable than Saudi Aramco and Apple combined. And what did he do 2 days later? He sold stock. So I'm looking at all this past behavior going, yeah, he's in trouble. Because again, what he's doing now for Twitter is I think he's going to get a margin loan on his Tesla stock because he wants to get reduced interest rate of like 12% to something else. And then if he goes into a bad year and Tesla falls 50% from here, he get margin called out. I mean, he's levered, man, dangerous.
So I don't really see Tesla as like a cult stock. The way I look at Tesla is a fashion statement, iconic,
Oh, okay.
brand like, or trying to be like Starbucks or Apple or, those types of things, more
Okay.
like Apple than anything else. He had the Apple of the car business,
Yes.
but, and it was seen as a tech play, not just a car company, but a tech play. But what everybody's finding out now is he's got nothing proprietary. His tech isn't that great. The cars aren't that great. What's coming out now are way better. The tech is
Mm,
way better. The vehicles are way better. They're more efficient. The winners in that space are going to be the batteries. That's the
yeah.
key to that space is the battery.
Batteries. Yeah.
And
It's
with
like
all of what
the
that is
gold
in the
miners,
industry, it
you
hasn't
got to
solved
sell the
that
shovel.
problem.
Yeah.
What's that?
Sorry. I was saying back in the gold miner days, it was people selling picks and shovels that made all the money. Sorry.
Yeah, so the batteries are going to be the key to that space. Whoever comes out with that is going to be the leader in that space, and that'll be the vehicles. It's all about the battery. Cars are cars and all that. And everybody's getting into it. So that's the problem with Tesla is that it still does have that iconic brand loyalty and following, but for the general public who bought one because there was no other options, they're not buying another one. You know,
Yeah.
um,
They're
you know,
everywhere in the Bay Area, Silicon Valley,
yeah,
where
they're
I
just
live.
not that good. There's not that
Yeah.
great of a vehicle, and the tech's not that great. And then they want to charge you more for different things and extra battery life and subscriptions, all that. So
Mm.
that's what's one thing that's cool about like that company from Vietnam. And I'm just not promoting or whatever. I'm just saying the idea behind it. They've got a battery subscription because that's the biggest issue with these cars is the battery, the
Mm.
cost to replace it, maintain it, and all that. You can pay so much a month, you don't have to worry about any of that. It's
Oh, okay.
maintained, and when it dies, you get a new one, and all of that. So, those solutions are coming that, has taken Tesla off the throne. Whereas you're not going to dethrone Apple. You're not going to dethrone Microsoft, Amazon, Google, companies like that, that, are just always going to kind of be there. Whereas Tesla, I think their day is kind of come and gone because he's not innovating. There's nothing new coming out of Tesla. Yeah,
Mm.
unless he comes up with the solution,
Yeah.
and more product mix, he's just going to continue to lose market share. So the real question is, how much belief is there in that stock and moving forward? And I think, from a Wall Street narrative, I think they're losing market share there as well every day.
Yeah. It's again one of those stocks I'll never touch because again, people are so passionate. It's nobody's ever in the middle. Either you love it or hate it. And I don't play in stocks like that. It's just yeah, it's fun to watch just how passionate people are. And I know people are going to watch this and say, "Oh, but Tesla's got the new semi truck and they've got solar panels and they got this, that, the other." Um, it's just I think it is so dangerous to have blind faith in one person. And I say that as somebody who got burned significantly last time.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I mean, they're a great company. They've got a lot
yeah,
of things that they've done and stuff like that. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying their stock's overvalued. That's all I'm
yeah,
saying.
no, I get it. Yeah, no, I understand. It's gonna be fun to watch again the next. The thing that I will say about Tesla or kind of tier number one companies, even Apple, is going into a recession, you will see people delay purchases, right? Hey, I was going to buy the next iPhone 14 or whatever it is. Maybe I'll wait for the 15, right? You're not going to give up on Apple. You're just going to wait for the next iteration. And if you're buying a Tesla, maybe you wait a year. So it's, and again, it
So,
does have some
with all
cachet.
that said, keep in mind you're talking to a guy who still has a 6S plus. you
Oh my
know,
God. Yeah. Oh, you got a 6S. Oh my God. That's funny. That's
yeah,
funny.
a 6S plus. Well, it works.
What
It
are your
does
kids got
well.
to buy you something for Christmas, man?
I just, it's to me, it's such a pain. You got to be a new phone and the case for it and all. If it
Yeah,
works,
it
why
works.
mess with it? Now, I mean, computer. I used PCs forever, and I had a Mac. When I switched to Mac, my first Mac, I kept that for I don't know 6 years. I just bought a new one last year for myself for Christmas because they
Nice.
work.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, they work. What I was waiting for in the Mac was the new camera that did HD. That was 1280 HD because the old Macs only had a 780.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I
Okay.
finally bought a Mac last year. This is what I'm on right now and record. It's got the 1280, HD camera in it. And
Oh, nice.
yeah, so I'm not one of those guys that's got to have the next new thing all the time.
Yeah.
I just if it's working for me and it does everything I need it to do, I'm fine. But when there's advances, I'll jump into them. But an iPhone, to me, I mean, the only thing I really do with it is phone calls and film some
Yeah.
videos and
Yeah.
I don't need the next latest and greatest, but all my family does, and they've all got the newest, highest, latest, and greatest.
Exactly. Where's dad's phone? It's the old
Yeah,
one over there.
exactly.
Oh man, that's so much fun. Well, Greg, do me a favor. Where can people find you?
Yeah, gregdickerson.com. That's where all my info is. Go check it out.
Awesome. Thank you so much.